Israel's war on Gaza has caused major damage to both the built and natural environments. Toxic chemicals and explosives rain down on the Strip. Sanitation and water treatment systems are destroyed. How much environmental damage is the war causing? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Adrian Finnegan. Palestinians continue to suffer in Israel's brutal war on Gaza. Tens of thousands killed and injured, with the toll rising daily. One of the most intense bombing campaigns since World War II will leave not just a legacy of grief for Gaza's people, but one of lasting physical damage to the environment in which they live. The collapse of water and sanitation systems and Israeli threats to flood the tunnels underneath Gaza could be catastrophic for freshwater supplies and reserves. Thousands upon thousands of Israeli and Western-supplied bombs dropped on Gaza bring not just death, but a toxic legacy from explosive chemicals. Dust and debris from destroyed buildings pollute the air and ground. Israel's military offensive in Gaza is leaving a new layer of toxic chemicals in its soil, adding to those left behind after the many wars that it's waged before. We'll be discussing the environmental cost of the war with our guests in just a few moments. But first, a report from Cara Legg.
Military vehicles, the production of weapons and equipment, and supply chains. The UN says Israel dropped 42 bombs an hour on Gaza during the first few weeks of war, damaging or completely destroying more than 60% of homes. It's also attacked water treatment systems and polluted water supplies, leading to sewage being dumped directly into the sea. Now there are reports the Israeli military is pumping seawater into the network of underground tunnels used by Hamas.
By flooding the foundation of Gaza, it means adding more problems to the already existing problem. The earth is very soft. By being soft, it is detrimental for the civilians to have all this flood under their knees by the Israelis, who are very much aware what they're doing, but they really don't care.
Human rights groups have also accused Israel of using white phosphorus. The toxic substance not only causes severe burns, but can remain in the soil for years, causing long-term damage.
If you have heavy industry bombed, then you have all the pollution in heavy industry that gets released into the environment in a very uncontrolled way. That can leave residual pollution for decades.
Every aspect of life in Gaza is affected by some form of pollution. And with the start of the rainy season, the threat to people and the environment from disease, acid rain and contaminated water is only set to worsen. After 16 years under Israeli siege, Palestinians have been forced to adapt. About 60% of the population used solar energy to power their homes. But Israeli bombing has damaged or destroyed tens of thousands of buildings, many with solar panels. It will take years to clean up the military pollution and contamination of the soil, water and air. And the carbon emissions from its reconstruction will come at a cost to all forms of life in Gaza. Cara Legg, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
Well, along with allegations of genocide, Israel is also accused of committing ecocide of devastating proportions in Gaza. Broadly defined, ecocide means mass damage or destruction to the environment to the detriment of life, committed with full knowledge of the risks. The term was first used during the Vietnam War by scientists concerned at the US government's use of millions of litres of toxic herbicide, Agent Orange, which caused widespread birth deformities. The chemical was used to clear forests that gave Viet Cong fighters cover and food. Only a few countries define ecocide as a crime. Since Russia's war in Ukraine, there's been pressure in Europe to make it a war crime, which could be tried at the International Criminal Court. So let's bring in our guests for today's discussion. From Ramallah in the occupied West Bank, we're joined by Nada Majdalani, Palestinian Director of EcoPeace Middle East. The organization brings together Jordanian, Palestinian and Israeli environmentalists to promote shared protection of their environmental heritage. From Rafah in southern Gaza, Marwan Badawil, who heads the Gaza Programme Coordination Unit of the Palestinian Water Authority. In other words, he's the engineer who oversees water supplies to Gaza. And also in Ramallah, Hadil Ikhmais, Director General of the Climate Change Section of the Palestinian Authority's Environment Quality Authority. She's just represented Palestine at COP28 in Dubai. A warm welcome to you all. Nada, let's begin with you. Can we confidently describe what Israel is doing in Gaza with its bombing as ecocide?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for hosting us. And I would say yes. What is happening at the moment is an ecocide. Definitely, the environmental outlook at the moment is exacerbating day by day. The original condition before October 7th and before the aggressions on Gaza Strip have already been in a very dire situation. Already Gaza had suffered from polluted underground water, where 97% of the aquifer was not suitable for human consumption. We were speaking about tremendous problems regarding solid waste and wastewater treatment due to the shortages of fuel and several other issues. However, at the moment, the situation has been grave and exacerbated. We have no information whatsoever about the situation in the south, in the north, in terms of the amount of destruction of infrastructure facilities that support water supply and sanitation. The situation in the south is also in a very critical situation where 1.9 million people are actually displaced and confined in a very small surface area, which means we are at the verge of an environmental catastrophe in terms of the spread of pandemic disease, the accumulation of corpses in the street, also from the north and the middle areas, that would actually also provide susception to pandemic diseases. We're also looking at now, we have the raining season has already started. The flooding is, as you might have seen already from Jabalia refugee camp and some areas, there are videos that are horrifying of water flooding.
Nada, I'm sorry to interrupt. We'll come on. We'll talk some more in just a moment. But I want to give our other guests a chance to have their say too. Marwan, describe for us the impact of Israel's bombing on Gaza's water, sanitation, and hygiene infrastructure. Where did Gazans get their water before the war? Was it safe to drink, given that Gaza's been subjected to Israeli bombing many times in the past? And how was sewage dealt with? In what state is the sewage infrastructure now?
Thank you for this opportunity. In fact, before the war, Gaza Strip depends mainly on the groundwater and limited percentage of desalinated water from the seawater desalination plants, and purchased small quantities from the Israeli side through 3 connections. Before the war, almost around 35% of the population of Gaza Strip, they could use the tap water for drinking and for other usage, but 65% of the population, they receive salty water. For decades, the Palestinians in Gaza, they overpump the groundwater, and this is make a seawater intrusion, which elevate the level of the salinity. In addition of 4 decades before the Palestinian Authority came to and controlled Gaza and the West Bank, the majority of the Gazians, they use septic tanks as a sewage disposal method, and this is make a lot of pollutant, mainly the nitrate, to infiltrate for decades to the groundwater, which resulted in 97% of the aquifer in Gaza was unusable. It cannot be used by a human being. Despite all this facts, the Palestinian Water Authority and the Palestinian Authority, they did and start their strategic planning to rehabilitate the aquifer from one side and to supply the potable water for the Gazians. The strategy and the plans put in action since 2015, and by the end of 2022 we reached to the percentage that 35% of the population, mainly in Khan Yunis, part of Western Gaza and Rafah, to use it. Nowadays, the destruction happened in the sewage network mainly, and the shortage of the fuel and the shortage of electricity left most of the pumping station out of use, and this is make the opportunity for sewage water to flood in the streets and create a bad environment which could impact the public health and the environment as well.
Okay.
In the last 2 days,
Marwan, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Marwan. Marwan, can you just very briefly, if Israel carries through on its threat to flood the tunnel network which runs under Gaza with seawater, what impact would that have on the water infrastructure?
Yeah. Now, if they will pump these huge quantities of seawater underneath the Gaza, that means, first of all, there's an opportunity that this water by the ends will infiltrate to the groundwater, and this will pollute the groundwater with more seawater, and this could damage the aquifer to a limit that couldn't be reversible in the coming decades. The second part, that there's the structure of the soil in Gaza is a sandy soil, and these layers of sandy layers, they could collapse under the pressure of these huge quantities of water, and this will create a chance for the buildings and for the infrastructure underneath to be collapsed and destructed. So not only they will impact the aquifer and they will damage the aquifer for decades, but also they create an opportunity to collapsing buildings, streets, under infrastructure under the streets in the areas.
Hadil, Israel has for many years controlled Gaza's energy supplies. Out of necessity, Gazans have had to find alternative sources of power, solar energy, of course, being one of them. What impact has the war had on Gaza's energy infrastructure?
Thank you for this question. Actually, Gaza is under siege since almost 20 years ago, and this secures all of the resources, nature resources, energy resources. So there's a problem already present before the war and this genocide on Gaza. And imagine the situation after this genocide, that all the investments that have been done during the last 10 years were all distracted and massive distracted. A lot of solar panels and solar initiatives and renewable energy investments provided by the government or the private sector or NGOs for small projects or for certain areas in Gaza. Most of them are destroyed and totally distracted or partially distracted by the Israeli strikes on Gaza. Plus the fuels that operate all the water treatment, the desalination units, all the region or all the city has been shut down, and the lockdown and the siege also prevent those amounts of energy resources to operation and to enable people to have the facility from energy and the energy resources. So this basically this war hinders all of the environment and life aspects in Palestine, and energy security, food security, water security. All the environment components are hindered and endangered from these massive destructive that Gaza has been since the 7th of October.
Nada, I was reading a piece at AlJazeera.com in which you were quoted as saying that the war has destroyed every aspect of Gaza's environment.
Certainly, I mean, we're seeing a collective amount of threats to the environment and to the public health. First of all, let's not forget that Israel is utilizing chemical weapons like white phosphorus. This is completely not only from a humanitarian perspective that is dangerous to the humans that are bombarded, but as well this is affecting the air pollution. The residues from white phosphorus bombs is now in the atmosphere. With the rainy season, we will expect that these residues will precipitate with the rain, which actually, unfortunately, many people now are collecting to utilize for drinking. This is a grave situation where people might be at the moment drinking unsafe water that they're collecting personally from the streets, from even plastic sheets. And this is one part that is worrying. The other part that also people are drinking salty water that is untreated, as Hadil had mentioned, that small-scale desalination units are not operating because of the lack of fuel. Therefore, people are drinking salty water, and this is very dangerous to even people who have kidney and liver diseases. The drinking of polluted water with sewage elements and waterborne diseases is very high. At the moment, we're seeing a rising and rocketing numbers of children who are suffering diarrhea and bloody diarrhea, as well as there's a danger of parasitic infections, as well as hepatitis, chickenpox. We are seeing those rocketing numbers in the shelters.
Marwan, you spoke about the fact that even before the war, 65% of people in Gaza didn't have access to safe drinking water. What will it take to repair Gaza's water infrastructure? How long will it take? Who should pay for its repair? And will Gaza's water supply ever be fully safe, given the damage that has been inflicted upon it?
Yeah, first of all, till this moment, there is no assessment, accurate assessment to the damage that happened to the water facilities and the infrastructure related to the water and sanitation, since most of the areas are not accessible, so the accurate assessment didn't took place till today. But from the news and from what we are seeing in the north and in the Gaza City and even in the middle and in the south, the Palestinian Authority with the international donors, communities and the world supported the Palestinians. In the last 10 years, around $750 million US had been spent to rehabilitate and to upgrade the water and wastewater infrastructure and sector within the Gaza Strip. Now, the majority of these facilities, we have one desalination plant in the north, which is out of use. It's damaged. The level of the damage cannot be assessed remotely. The infrastructure, piping system, the networks are damaged. Groundwater wells, there is so many, are impacted by from the war activities in the surrounding areas. We don't have accurate information about the north wastewater treatment plant in the east part of Jabalia. We don't have information, clear, accurate information about the wastewater treatment plant in the east of Khan Yunis city. But the majority of the infrastructure in the north and in Gaza had been impacted to a level or so. Considering the level of the damages, we think that at least we need months till we assess all the infrastructure and the water facilities and to account the damage happened. And we believe that we need years to fix the water facilities and the water networks and the water supply system and the wastewater. I would just want to make a commentary related to the water shortage and its impact on the public health, mainly on the shelters. According to the WHO standards, the minimum there should be around 30 liters per capita per day. Till this moment, we didn't succeed to reach this quantities. The majority of the people receive less than 20 liters per capita per day, and according to the UN records, there is around 400,000 cases of diseases that are related to the water or the shortage of the water. Skin diseases, diarrhea, hepatitis, a lot of cases that has been recorded in the shelters. And this is make the problem of the public health is more seriously a threat even when the war is stopped, to deal with all these cases of diseases and the possibility to be spread because of the crowded number in the shelters, because of the polluted environment in the entire streets and around the shelters, and even within the shelter itself.
Okay. Hadil, what will it take to repair the environmental damage wrought on Gaza? Can it ever be repaired? Will it ever be fully habitable again, given the scale of the destruction? Has Israel deliberately tried to make Gaza uninhabitable, do you think?
Israel, from the occupation since day one to occupying Palestine in general, and during the last years, trying to make Palestine is unlivable and uninhabitable for Palestinians in both West Bank and Gaza. But considering Gaza as being West Bank and Gaza have similar but yet different conditions, because both of them have water scarcity problems. But look at Gaza; it's much more 100 million, and during this war, it's even uncomparable of the water scarcity, water situation, water limitation, water pollution, water restriction, the fuel restriction. All the aspects of life is being shut down because of the Israeli occupation. Want basically the first thing, the most important thing they want is just to stop life in Gaza Strip and in Palestine as well. Will be able, we believe in that spirit in Gaza people and Palestinian people over the days and over the centuries. We had the ability to live and rebuild and to resist and to continue. But the price is going to be so high. I work in climate action, and we started to plan for the adaptation and mitigation, and our priority is adaptation, because we are a country that situated in the MENA region, which is under the negative impact of climate change. When we started to make this adaptation and mitigation plans, we looked at the Israeli occupation as the first hindering and the first challenge that exacerbates the Palestinians' resistance against the climate action. And looking at Gaza specifically, climate action, unstable environments because of the nature environment and the human-made disasters, and the attacks and the genocide and the wars who attacks everything. It's possible, but on what cost? All the plans have to be changed. When we planned for having a mitigation scenario for 2040, we had renewable energy to be operated in Gaza for a certain percent. But now, in what percent? What is the plan that need to be done? Because now we have to start from the zero. We have nothing. We were building 9 or 5 years ago. We were building on what was on the ground for the facilities of energy facilities, of water facilities, of sanitation facilities. But now looking at on the ground, what is left there? What kind of facilities, what kind of plans? We should replan from the zero, from the scratch, to start to build a city. The whole city is under damaged with all the components. Before the war, we started to work on early warning systems and having a station, weather station, and forecasting to predict and enable the agricultural sector people and all the people to know about the weather forecasting. But now, what infrastructure we are going to talk about early warning system, while even the basic internet line or anything is missing there. So the environment is in danger. The climate action is hitting Palestine, is hitting Gaza, but the price is going to be multiplied after this war and this attack.
Hadil, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Time is fast running out. I just want to put one more question to Nada. Nada, we talked about, or you talked about, the impact that Israel's bombing has had on air quality in Gaza, the use of white phosphorus, the dust from collapsed buildings, some of which will have contained asbestos. What about unexploded ordnance, though? How much of a threat does that pose to public health and rebuilding efforts? And with so many buildings destroyed by Israel's bombing, where does all the toxic rubble go when the time actually comes to rebuild?
This is a very good question. We don't know, and when the time comes to rebuild, we would like also to understand what are the conditions of the reconstruction in Gaza and how they will be, and also how much the Israeli government and the political setup and the security setup for rebuilding will enable for the rebuilding. First of all, with the lack of space in Gaza, already there was difficulty to deal with solid waste and to deal with domestic solid waste. And there were several plans even before to look into basically waste to energy projects and how feasible they are, because already there was a shortage in space because Gaza is one of the most condensed and populated areas on Earth. So finding space to deal with all this construction material and waste is really questionable. What I'm thinking is that there's been, as Hadil mentioned, we are a nation that is keen to build, and it's keen to find and to be innovative, to find solutions. There's been several startups in the past to recycle basically the damage and destruction material, to utilize it to build again.
Nada, we're out of time. Many thanks indeed to all of you. Nada Majdalani, Marwan Badawil and Hadil Ikhmais. And thank you for watching. You can see the programme again at any time by visiting our website at aljazeera.com. For further discussion, join us at our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. And you can join the conversation on X, our handle at AJ Inside Story. From me, Adrian Finnegan, and the whole team here in Doha. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again. Bye for now.